In this video, I'm going to analyse a driving test report sheet, and I'm going to clearly identify how and why this person failed their driving test. I'm doing this so that you don't make the same mistakes that they did. This video is sponsored by In Gear Driving School, who mainly cover North Dublin and Tala, but also offer services in Carlow, Tyghe and Offaly. They have both male and female instructors and do lessons in automatic and manual. For more information, check out www.ingear.ie. So let's have a look at the driving test report sheet now that the learner sent me in recently. As you can see here, it's not the worst report sheet. The main reason he failed is because of this red box down here, the grade 3 on the reverse around the corner, where unfortunately he mounted the curb. There's a little cluster of marks here on gears as well, and this was for not getting up the gears in time in between various ramps. And a couple over here on observation as well, observation moving off. That's connected with not doing the blind spot properly, forgetting about it or not doing it properly depending on the context of the situation. And overall he got 9 grade 2s, which is going to be a fail anyway, but the grade 3 on the reverse meant that regardless of what else happened, he was going to fail mainly on the reverse around the corner. So overall it's not bad. I think the mistakes that he made here are easily rectifiable. He knows where he went wrong, and let's start out now by finding out where he went wrong on the reverse around the corner. And he was good enough to send me a photo of the reverse as well, which is very helpful. And this is it. This is a photo of the reverse that he did on his driving test. So I should say that the learner told me in his email that it had been raining the morning of the test, and the rain had only gotten heavier as the day progressed, and this was kind of making him nervous. He hadn't driven in conditions like this before, so it was a bit of a source of anxiety. On the reverse around the corner, there were quite a few droplets on the mirror, and this negatively impacted on his vision. He was wondering, is there anything you can do? And I'll explain some of that now in a few minutes, some tips I have on that. On the reverse, he said he started okay. He did his observation at the start. He went back in a slow straight line at the beginning part. But due to the rain, he turned too much and probably turned too soon. This meant as well that he ended up not just hitting the curb, but mounting the curb a little bit. And when the wheels leave the ground, that's never a good thing on the reverse around the corner or indeed the turnabout. Because although it wasn't dangerous in itself, it just has to be potentially dangerous for it to be classified as a grade 3 mark. And that's what happened here. He got a grade 3 under competency for the reverse around the corner. He actually asked the tester, is it okay to start again and to try it again? And the tester said yes, you can try again if you want to. He had already failed, but the tester was good enough to let him have another go anyway. And he did it fine the second time. He did a great job the second time. He didn't hit the curb, didn't go too wide. His observation suffered a little bit on the second attempt, but overall it was a fine effort. But unfortunately it was too little too late, because the first reverse is the one that counted, and the first reverse is what basically caused him to fail. He was completely put off and flustered by the lack of vision in the side mirror, because it was full of rain droplets. So it probably looked a little bit like this here. In this little short video clip, you can see that the vision is not good. But what I'm trying to say to this learner and to you out there listening and watching this video is you cannot just focus on the droplets, and you cannot just focus on what you can't see. Focus instead on what you are able to see. For example, look at these red lights here, and you can see the basic outline of a car, plus a little bit of road space here to the right. The contrasting shapes and colours can help you decipher what's going on in the side mirror here with rain droplets. Make sure your passenger windows are clear and free of any condensation, because if they're not, then you really have got a problem. The tester did say that because the first reverse was not up to scratch and because he mounted the curb, that was the reason you failed. Tester explained that if you imagine that there was a woman coming there pushing a pram, or a child riding a bike, and you go on the curb, you know, potential danger is there, and that's why it had to be a grade 3. Very often the tester said that they will overlook a little bump off the curb or a scrape off the curb, but when the wheels leave the ground and you end up mounting the curb, they cannot overlook that. I have lots of videos on the reverse around the corner. I'll leave some links in the description, so make sure you check those out once you're finished watching this video here. So the next area that he lost out on was gears. He wasn't going up the gears enough in between ramps. So he would have one set of ramps that he would go over, and then there would be a large distance and he would stay in second gear and not go to third. And this is what cost him. You have to get up the gears to suit the speed that you're driving at. It's more economical and you'll save more petrol. Let's have a look at the photo of the particular geographical area that we're talking about, because he sent me this, which is very handy. And this is it here. So this is the road, or at least one of the roads that he was driving on. You can see there's the first set of ramps here, and then further up, maybe 70 or 80 meters into the distance where the red circle is there, is the next set of ramps. He was staying in second gear the entire distance between the two ramps, and this is not the correct thing to do. The engine is getting louder and it's not using your gears properly. You have to get up to third gear, or maybe even fourth gear, depending on how fast you're going, and then slow down gradually and get back down to second for the ramps when you do meet him eventually. I have made a great video on how to deal with ramps. I made it recently, and I'm going to leave a link in the description, so make sure you check out that video so you can have a clearer understanding about how to handle ramps or speed bumps in the future. The next mistake we're going to look at is secondary controls. This is usually to do with the wipers or the lights or some kind of other controls in the car that are not your primary controls, like your steering wheel or handbrake, for example. So the tester told him that the reason he gave him this mark was because he didn't let the windows down. The tester had to ask the learner to let the windows down because they were fogging up. The learner needs to understand that it's his or her responsibility to keep your windows clear of condensation and to stop them getting fogged up. If the tester has to tell you to clear your windows, that's not going to be a good look. I have made a great video on secondary controls. So in this video, I go through all the car's controls, at least in my car anyway. And it's so important that you have a good knowledge about how all the car controls work, especially if you're using a car that's not your own one, like a driving school car, and especially if you're driving in the rain where you could have condensation building up unless you prevent that from happening. So make sure you check out those videos, links in the description. He also lost a few marks on observation moving off, and this is to do with not checking the blind spot. Sometimes people might lose marks here for just forgetting the blind spot, or they might do it like this, where they just give a little slight half check and they don't give the full proper like turn of the shoulder like this. So you have to make sure when you're checking your blind spot moving off that your shoulder here comes out there, and you twist your head and neck right around so you can see out the back passenger window. I want to show you the specific area where this person lost marks here now. So do you remember at the start of the video when I said that he sort of messed up the reverse around the corner? He started out okay on the reverse, and then because he couldn't really see properly in the side mirror, he turned too much too soon and he ended up just mounting the curb there. He then asked the tester if he could try again. The tester said, yeah, you can try it again if you want to. Unfortunately, when it came time to move off here, the learner driver just put it into first gear and drove back to the start like that. It is understandable because he was probably stressed or anxious after what happened, so he wasn't really thinking clearly. If you go back there to where he hit the curb or mounted the curb, okay? If you're going to move off again to pull forward on the reverse to start it again, you have got to do your 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? 1, go into first gear. 2, because you've got 2 indicators. 3, because you've got 3 mirrors. And 4 then, I call that 4 now because it's in your 4 o'clock zone, as in your blind spot. It's in your 4 o'clock zone if you look at it from above. So you've got to check your all around you, your blind spot, and then move forward, okay? You cannot just put it into first gear and go back to the start. I've heard so many stories about learners losing marks on the blind spot here on situations like this. Or let's say, for example, they successfully do a reverse around the corner, okay? Let's say the reverse is just finished there, okay? So you've done the reverse successfully, no problem on the reverse. The tester then says, okay, now I'd like you to move off and take a left turn at the end of the road. So very often they're moving off straight away, and because they're still, probably the adrenaline is running, or maybe they're not thinking clearly, and understandably so. I mean, I can completely empathise with this. They forget to check the mirrors and the blind spot. They just put it into first gear and go. And because they're so close to the junction, they probably don't see it as moving off. But what you have to do is do your 1, 2, 3, 4. Check your 3 mirrors and blind spot. Indicate right to move off. Okay, and then indicate left then to take the left turn, because the moving off after the reverse around the corner and the subsequent left turn here are 2 separate entities, 2 separate maneuvers. So you indicate right to move off and indicate left to take the left turn. But the point I'm making here is when you're just finished your reverse around the corner, or let's say you're just finished your turnabout, you have got to check your 3 mirrors and blind spot before you go again down to the end of the road or whatever it is. Because if you don't, you could easily get a grade 3 mark, and you could probably get a grade 2 if you don't do it properly. So I can't overestimate this enough, folks. Make sure you check your blind spot after the reverse and as you're about to move off again, and the same after your turnabout, okay? So the next area this person lost out on was this mark here, observation changing lanes. So not enough mirror checks when he moved from the left lane to the right lane, he says. Now let's look at a photograph of the particular junction that he fell down on. So here it is. The learner driver said to me in the email that because there was queues of traffic in front of him, he wasn't actually able to see the arrows properly on the road, which is unfortunate and again understandable. Like, in hindsight, you could say, if you look at this road here, there's no right turn up here. There doesn't appear to be a right turn. So the 2 lanes here, you could say like the left lane could be for left and the right lane for going straight, because there's no right turn here by process of elimination. But it's easy for me to say that in hindsight. It's much more difficult when you're in the driving test having to face this challenge. And this is why getting driving lessons in the local area is so important, so that you can become more familiar with tricky roads like this that require some thought and consideration. It's an understandable mistake. It was unfortunate, and because he was so late going across, because he was late seeing the road markings, he didn't get the appropriate mirror checks, and that's why he lost a mark on observation changing lanes here. I have a video on road markings, and I'll leave a link in the description for it, and I'm sure it'll help you to plan ahead and read the road ahead. The next mark that this person lost was here, just on observation here at cross junctions. Cross junctions usually refers to a crossroads of some type. The tester said here that he gave way to traffic okay, fine. His position was okay, but the tester said that he didn't check his mirrors before taking the turn, and the learner said that he also thinks he didn't refresh the mirrors as well as he was waiting. So it's very important to get your mirrors before you indicate, and it's no harm as well while you're waiting in a queue to refresh them, just in case there's any cars coming up on your sides or any cyclists that might be nearby. Another mark here that he lost out on was reaction to hazards, just the 1 mark. And the learner driver doesn't actually have a clue what happened there. And it is very hard to say because it is a very broad area, hazards. It could be to do with maybe doing the ramps too fast or too slow. It could be to do with checking blind spots unnecessarily at junctions when you don't need to do it. It could be something to do with parked cars, or dealing with potholes or roadworks or something like that. Maybe the person didn't plan ahead or didn't brake early enough. Maybe he braked a bit late for a certain situation. It's hard to know. It's a very broad area, as I said, but I will leave some links in the description that will help you to plan ahead, some commentary drives there, and a video as well on how to deal with parked cars. So check those out and they'll help you to deal with hazards in a more effective way going forward. There's also another mark up there on progress at lights. It's just a grade 1 mark, so I wouldn't really worry about it too much. It's just a minor mark, and that could be just for being too slow moving off at lights, or maybe being a little bit too slow pulling away or pulling into the middle when the light went green, something like that. But either way, it's only a grade 1, so it's a minor mark and nothing to worry about too much. Remember to check out In Gear Driving School if you're looking for driving lessons in North Dublin or Tyghe. Paul Murphy is the man who runs that driving school, and I first met Paul in 2008 when we did a training course together. I've always found him to be polite, professional and passionate about his job as a driving instructor. I want to say a big thank you to Paul for sponsoring this video. Best wishes to you and your team. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you have any questions, just let me know in the comments section. My email is here if you have any questions about driving, or if you'd like to share your experience of a recent test with me, then just send me an email. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon. Slán go fóill.